In the early 19th century, the United States was on a mission to expand, and it did so rapidly. Between 1803 and 1854, through a mix of purchases, negotiations, and wars, the U.S. tripled its territory, acquiring vast lands from France, Spain, the United Kingdom, Mexico, and others. But with great land came great conflict. Welcome to History Empire Center. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support our growing community of history lovers. As the nation stretched westward, a heated debate began to boil. Should these new territories allow slavery or be declared free? This wasn't just a political issue, it was a moral crisis that had already been dividing Americans for decades. The North, growing rapidly in population and industry, opposed the spread of slavery. The South, dependent on agriculture and enslaved labor, fought to preserve it. With more than 23 million people in the North and only about 9 million in the South, including 3.5 million enslaved people, the imbalance was clear. Yet both sides clung to the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution to justify their opposing views. The stage was set. The rise of an anti-slavery president would be the spark that ignited the Civil War. The South viewed the Union as a property they could abandon at will, while the North perceived it as a unified nation governed by a central authority, emphasizing the principle that all men are created equal. The Founding Fathers left these fundamental aspects of American society somewhat open to interpretation, leading to widespread speculation about their true intentions. Questions arose regarding the citizenship of Black individuals, the morality of slavery, and even trivial matters like whether cereal or milk should be added first. On a more serious note, some sought peaceful resolutions to these issues, but such efforts often resulted in contentious and extreme compromises, such as the Compromise of 1850. This compromise granted statehood to California, allowed territories north of the Missouri Compromise line to determine their own status, and enforced the Fugitive Slave Law, which mandated that even states that had abolished slavery return escaped slaves. Despite these compromises, tensions continued to escalate as many Northerners began to recognize the immorality of slavery and were reluctant to support its continuation. The emergence of the Republican Party in 1854, which staunchly opposed slavery, further fueled this discontent. The political climate became so charged that members of Congress began to carry firearms, and physical altercations among representatives were not uncommon. This illustrates the intense political environment in America leading up to the Civil War. The election of Abraham Lincoln as the first Republican president in November 1860 served as the catalyst for secession. Although Lincoln held moderate views and did not intend to immediately abolish slavery, 7 slave states declared their secession and formed the Confederacy under Jefferson Davis before Lincoln assumed office in March 1861, leaving him with limited options. The conflict commenced in April 1861 when South Carolina attacked Fort Sumter after the federal government declined their request to withdraw troops from the state. Following the fort's surrender, the government called upon every state to send forces to reclaim it. 4 states declined to engage against their neighboring states and subsequently joined the Confederacy. Additionally, 4 slave states, Maryland, Delaware, Missouri, and Kentucky, opposed both secession and the use of force against the South. West Virginia later became an additional border state after separating from Virginia. As the South began to mobilize its population for military service, the Union faced challenges at the war's outset due to its relatively outdated and ineffective generals, while the South benefited from the leadership of talented commanders like Robert E. Lee. Shortly after the war began, the North established a naval blockade to disrupt Southern supply lines. The First Battle of Bull Run, the war's first significant engagement, took place on July 21, 1861, as Union forces attempted to capture the southern capital of Richmond. The battle was marked by chaos, with many soldiers lacking combat experience, the flags of both sides being so similar that it was difficult to identify friend from foe, and civilians arriving from nearby areas to picnic while observing the conflict. With significant losses on both sides, the Confederacy ultimately managed to repel the Northern forces, leading to a period of worsening conditions for the North. However, a Union general named Ulysses S. Grant began to gain recognition through crucial military successes in the West. By February 1862, The Union Army had secured victories in central Kentucky and Tennessee. The Army aimed to advance southward to seize a vital east-west railway junction in northern Mississippi. This battle resulted in heavy casualties exceeding 23,000 on both sides, but the Union emerged victorious. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, tensions escalated with the United Kingdom due to an incident known as the Trent Affair. On November 8, 1861, Confederate diplomats were intercepted by the United States aboard a British vessel, nearly provoking a conflict between the two nations. Even after the diplomats were released, European powers continued to threaten intervention, as they could no longer import cotton from the South due to the blockade. Bolstered by recent Southern victories, Robert E. Lee, for the first time, assembled his forces to advance into Northern Territory with the intention of threatening Washington, D.C. The attack was meticulously planned and appeared likely to succeed. However, the battle plans were inadvertently discovered by a soldier who found them wrapped around a cigar. Union troops came across a copy of General Robert E. Lee's orders outlining the Confederate strategy for the Antietam campaign in Maryland. The Battle of Antietam took place on September 17, 1862, marking the bloodiest single day in U.S. military history, with a total of 23,000 casualties. The day concluded in a stalemate, effectively halting Lee's ambitions to invade the North for the time being. On January 1, 1863, President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which abolished slavery in the Confederate States, thereby altering the primary objective of the Civil War. The focus shifted from preventing secession to advocating for the end of slavery, thereby redefining the conflict's significance. This decision was not merely a moral stance, it also lent greater legitimacy to the Union's cause and made it nearly impossible for France and the United Kingdom to intervene on behalf of the Confederacy, as both nations had already abolished slavery and would appear hypocritical in doing so. The war reached a critical juncture in July 1863 when General Robert E. Lee launched an attempt to seize Washington, D.C., leading to the renowned Battle of Gettysburg. It was widely believed that the outcome of this battle would determine the war's victor. The Union suffered approximately 23,000 casualties, while the Confederates faced around 28,000. Ultimately, this battle resulted in a significant and decisive victory for the North. Meanwhile, in the West, the situation improved further as Ulysses S. Grant gained control of the Mississippi River following the siege of Vicksburg. The simultaneous victories at Gettysburg and Vicksburg marked a pivotal moment in the Civil War, ensuring that European powers refrained from recognizing the Confederacy as an independent nation, thus denying it crucial support. The devastation of war remained evident in Gettysburg, even 4 months later, when the Soldiers' National Cemetery was dedicated on November 19, 1863. During the ceremony, which became a significant event in American history, President Abraham Lincoln paid tribute to the fallen soldiers and redefined the war's purpose in his famous Gettysburg Address. Although he was not the main speaker of the day, another individual reportedly spoke for 2 hours before Lincoln took the stage. It was Lincoln's words that resonated through history, effectively capturing the moment's significance. In a 271-word account, the United States is portrayed as a nation founded on the principles of liberty and the belief that all individuals are created equal. In 1864, Ulysses S. Grant, who was highly regarded by President Lincoln for his exceptional leadership as the foremost general of the Union forces, despite his well-known fondness for whiskey, was appointed General-in-Chief of the Union Army. He was tasked with launching attacks on multiple fronts. General William Sherman successfully besieged and captured Atlanta, while in the Eastern Theater, Grant and Confederate General Robert E. Lee engaged in a series of intense battles that resulted in over 80,000 casualties within a few weeks, ultimately leading to a standoff near Richmond. During the 1864 election, Abraham Lincoln achieved a remarkable re-election victory, garnering 91% of the vote in support of his presidency. As Southern generals continued to resist surrender, Sherman advanced from Atlanta, capturing Georgia and South Carolina, while inflicting extensive damage amounting to billions of dollars by destroying railroads, farms, and liberating enslaved individuals. In the East, under increasing pressure from Union forces, General Lee retreated from Grant's siege, leading to the destruction of Richmond, the Confederate capital. Lee surrendered a few weeks later, prompting other Confederate generals to follow suit, effectively ending the American Civil War. The 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery and involuntary servitude, was passed by the Senate on April 8, 1864, and by the House of Representatives on January 31st, 1865. Tragically, Lincoln did not live to see the ratification of this significant amendment, as he was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth on April 14, 1865, at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., passing away the following day. The amendment was ratified by the necessary number of states on December 6, 1865, and Confederate President Jefferson Davis was soon captured, leading to military occupation of the South. The most challenging task lay ahead: Reconstruction and reconciliation. This conflict resulted in the loss of over 750,000 lives, making it the deadliest war in American history. Soon after, Black individuals were granted citizenship and the right to vote. Families were reunited, marking the end of decades of suffering for millions of Black Americans. However, the struggle against discrimination and the pursuit of equality continues to this day. The effects of this war still resonate throughout the United States and its society. In the spirit of Abraham Lincoln, we must continue to seek unity and progress. Unbeknownst to him, Lincoln would be remembered as a modest leader who preserved the nation and championed justice. He remains one of the most significant and cherished presidents in American history. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and we look forward to seeing you next time.